Stop talking.
I mean, if I was a homophobe, wouldn't I see a gay guy and be like, ah, a gay guy, run!
I'm not gonna lie, if you told me that my favorite TV show of the year would be Ted, I wouldn't believe you.
What?
Don't get me wrong, I like the original movies, but that was more than a decade ago. Not sure what I liked as a teenager holds up as an adult. Also, Ted being on Peacock was another red flag. I mean, the only other show worth mentioning at this point is what, Bel-Air? But boy, I'm glad I was wrong. While still keeping its raunchy nature, Ted simultaneously is a very wholesome and down-to-earth kind of show, despite starring a walking, talking, swearing teddy bear.
I will tell her you watch Full House so you can jerk off to Lori Loughlin, but that you can't always predict how long the scene is, so half the time you ejaculate to an establishing shot.
I think Ted works way better as a show than it does as a movie, but that's a no-brainer considering this comes from the mind of Seth MacFarlane, a guy who has great reverence for sitcoms of the past and really knows how to make TV shows. Aside from the obvious works such as American Dad and Family Guy, I was a huge fan of his series The Orville. And it was pretty neat seeing Seth's transition from a sci-fi to suburban comedy. Jokes are really funny while simultaneously being not too mean-spirited.
Pee much? Why don't you go ask your mother's face? Oh, Jesus. I am so sorry. That was so over the line.
What the fuck, dude? That's sick.
In my mouth before I knew what it was. Kind of like your mother. Oh, my God.
I hear a lot of people complaining that Seth is nothing but referential humor, but I feel like it works in the setting.
Macarena. Macarena. Ah, where's the goddamn conditioner?
Help me.
Ah!
Be my designated driver.
Jesus Christ, Blair, what the fuck?
Well,
What the fuck is wrong with you? I'm naked.
you're always naked.
Yeah, but I'm bathroom naked. I'm washing my bare parts. Get lost.
This show takes us all the way back to the 90s, and that's a gold mine for pop culture references and things that people grew up with or know through pop culture osmosis. And it's not too distant to where people about 20-something to 30-something years ago will remember. And setting the series back in the 90s allows us to better understand the dynamic between John and Ted. While still zany, Ted and John's goofball natures are tweaked for the better in the show. Seeing them as teenage boys really makes more sense than 30-year-old burnouts. Honestly, if they end up retconning the movies, I wouldn't even bat an eye. I like Max way more than Mark.
You know, I don't want to speculate on who's gay, but didn't you just touch his penis twice?
Something I can't stand with a passion is the comparison to Family Guy. Sure, aside from being set in a New England family, something I can't stand is the comparison to Family Guy. Yeah, sure, you've got a New England family composed of a loudmouth dad, wacky mom, the sister-like figure who is the proverbial quote-unquote punching bag, oddball son, and I guess Ted would be a combination of both Stewie and Brian. But like, that is such a surface level comparison. Let's start off with Maddie, played by the wonderful Scott Grimes, aka Steve from American Dad.
My body all over your body, babe. Your body all over my body, babe.
Who is hilarious. He's this old-fashioned dad a la Ted Bundy, except he doesn't hate his family. Sure, he's out of touch and hilariously out of pocket a lot of the times, but he does grow as a person, especially when it comes to how he treats his wife Susan and his niece Blair. Susan is a sweet and doting mother, like something straight out of a Norman Rockwell painting. So whenever something raunchy happens, her reactions are just freaking hilarious.
Every 6 months. And what about anal?
Dude,
Jesus
seriously.
Christ!
We do like the room to be clean, yeah.
I feel like Blair would have been Johnny's sister, but making her his cousin makes more sense because he never existed in the original movies. She's basically the progressive voice of reason in the Bennett family and pretty much gels well with everyone. So she has an episode where she bonds with everybody. She's also a good contrast and a good foil to Maddie's over-the-top nature because they're so diametrically different on the political spectrum. You always have good clapbacks between the two. They really do act more like father and daughter more than niece and uncle. And she serves as a good older sister type figure to Johnny and Ted, always providing them with some words of wisdom. And I think that's something that is really different from things like American Dad and Family. I feel like because of the nature of being animation, although still very sweet and tender in some moments, the kindness and sincerity of the show really shines through in ways that just don't really come off as well. I mean, sure, the Smiths are more caring than the Griffins, but the Bennetts just altogether, while dysfunctional, you really feel for them and get them. John's character arc in this show is learning how to not always depend on Ted and growing into a man, or at least not the version of a man that Ted thinks he needs to be, not the version that his father thinks he needs to be, but just out being an honest and pretty decent guy. You see him as a guy who cares for his family and cares for like people like the bullies. So he's not exactly a cool guy. I mean, he's the same guy that went on and embarrassed himself in front of his entire student body and declared that he's a virgin, but also got the girl at the end of the day. So it's a win-win situation. A lot of parallels to the movie, and you kind of see traces of who Johnny will become. And unfortunately, because of the nature of his relationship with Ted, we know it doesn't come out to be the greatest person. Not a bad person, just nothing really happens with his life. And hopefully sometime down the line, we get to see a retcon of this nature in Ted 3, if there's a Ted 3. Honestly, like I said, this should just be a show. Retcon the movies, because I'd like to see where Johnny ends up. Make this like, I don't know, like a Star Trek situation where there's two different Ted timelines. They could do it. Ted Multiverse, I'm down for it. Speaking of Ted, Ted is less raunchy. I mean, yeah, he's still a loudmouth. Yeah, he says some wildly out of pocket things, but in a way, I think all the nastiness that you think of Ted in the other two movies are now given to Maddie. I think all the personality traits that you would associate with Ted when it comes to just being this wild party animal, he still gets that, but the world treats him like a regular guy, and he's more of Johnny's like twin / psycho brother, and you get to see what life is like when they're split apart. And I think Ted does well with other characters, especially when it comes to Blair. That's why I think Blair is a excellent addition to the cast. I think she holds the boys accountable for a lot of their actions. We get to see how Ted evolves and devolves over the years. And I really can't wait to see what they do next season when it comes to the next chapter in the boys' lives. And hopefully they can extend this all the way to college. Zed, I'm down for a retcon. But if you agree or disagree with anything I said, don't forget to put your thoughts in the description and tell me what you think about the Ted Show. Do you hate it? Do you indifferent? Do you like the Thunder Buddy song? And if you like what we do here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know the next time we upload. And thanks for watching. And fuck you, Thunder!
show.